DC Shoes. From skater startup to corporate turbulence, DC Shoes was founded in 1994 by Damon Way, Ken Block, and Clayton Blem, created from the start as a brand designed by skaters for skaters. Within its first year, the company reported about $1.5 million in sales, a clear signal that the skate world wanted footwear built around performance and durability, rather than just style. But that visibility also brought obstacles. In the early 2000s, DC Comics challenged DC's early overlapping DC logo, starting a trademark infringement lawsuit. DC Shoes, which had properly trademarked its logo, then countersued DC Comics and won. For several years, DC Comics was required to pay DC Shoes to license the use of its own logo. In an unprecedented case of the little guy winning in the skate world, DC Comics unveiled a new logo in 2012. This ended the licensing payments to DC Shoes. Through the late 1990s and early 2000s, DC stood out in both marketing and visibility. Rob Dyrdek helped push the brand through his TV shows and designed more than a dozen pro shoes, while Danny Way's historic mega ramp stunts etched the logo into skateboarding history. Yet independence didn't last. In 2004, Quiksilver bought DC for roughly $87 million, a turning point that gave the founders a big payoff, but shifted creative control to a corporate parent. As Quiksilver's financial troubles grew, DC's prominence and creative projects shrank. What happens when skateboard culture answers to a boardroom? That pattern will come up again with Birdhouse, Tony Hawk's flight through industry highs and lows. Birdhouse Skateboards was founded in 1992 by Tony Hawk and Per Waylander. Right as vert skating was fading and street skating dominated the scene. For Hawk, who had spent his career becoming the face of vert, it was a difficult transition. Birdhouse wasn't launched from a position of strength, it was a lifeline. Early on, the company constantly hovered near collapse. Skate shops failed to pay for orders, tours meant cutting costs anywhere possible, and Hawk went so far as to remortgage his house for about $40,000 just to keep the brand alive. The first turning point came in 1998 with the release of The End. Unlike the scrappy tour videos of the early 90s, this was a high-production release filled with cinematic skits and huge stunts. It gave Birdhouse a sharper identity and made the team impossible to ignore. The second and even bigger shift followed a year later, when Hawk landed the 900 at the X Games in 1999, an achievement that pushed him into mainstream culture and put Birdhouse on a global stage alongside his video game. By the 2000s, younger riders like Aaron Jaw's Homo Key and Lizzie Armanto brought new life to the brand, capped by Birdhouse winning Thrasher's King of the Road 3 years in a row from 2013 to 2015. Proof that what began as an almost desperate side project could survive, adapt, and reassert itself decades later. Not every skater-owned brand followed that same path of persistence. Some built their reputation around rebellion from the very beginning. World Industries. The skater-owned revolution. World Industries began in 1987 when Steve Rocco set out to disrupt a skateboarding industry dominated by companies like Powell Peralta and Vision. Rocco, a former freestyle skater, wanted a brand where skaters, not corporate executives, made the decisions. That guiding principle gave the company its spark, but it was the advertising that turned heads. World ran provocative campaigns, often mocking bigger brands and even sparking public feuds. The tone was confrontational and raw, and it connected with a generation that felt ignored by the industry's establishment. Beyond ads, the rebellion took other forms. World launched Big Brother magazine to print uncensored views of skateboarding, material too blunt for mainstream publications. Its decks featured characters like Flameboy, Devilman, and Wet Willie, graphics that turned boards into cultural symbols and cemented the brand's distinct identity. This combination of provocation and iconic imagery made World Industries a force not just in skating, but in youth culture at large. In 1998, World sold for around $29 million, marking one of skateboarding's biggest buyouts. After that sale, the brand passed through owners including Globe International, IE Distribution, and GVS America, with each transfer eroding the skater-owned identity it had once stood for. Can a brand built as a protest survive being absorbed into the system it defied? That question lingers as we move to another story, this one about two legendary skaters who joined forces to create something entirely different. Almost Skateboards. Playful innovation in the 2000s. Almost Skateboards launched in 2003, founded by Rodney Mullen and Daewon Song. Under dwindled distribution, the company stood out for combining a lighthearted, playful attitude with serious work on deck technology. Their first video, Round 3 in 2004, captured that approach. Technical skating mixed with curb creativity and even a 3D experiment, signaling that Almost would treat skateboarding as both innovation and fun. Rodney's influence carried directly into board design. Almost introduced technical advances like the Uberlight and Impact Support series, using carbon fiber to cut weight while building strength. These weren't gimmicks. They responded to the real needs of modern skaters, matching a culture that was pushing the limits of what boards could handle. At the same time, projects like the 2006 mini-ramp video Cheese and Crackers showed that humor and creativity were central to the brand's identity. The company also endured moments that tested its sense of community. In 2013, team rider Louis Marnell passed away from complications related to diabetes. His death deeply impacted Almost, as he had been one of their earliest amateurs, and it marked an emotional turning point that reaffirmed the team's closeness, even as the brand looked outward. Almost has since grown into an internationally diverse team, representing skaters from Germany, Belgium, and beyond. Unlike companies absorbed by large buyouts, Almost has kept its independence through consistency and innovation. That balance of invention and personality came to define its survival, while other skater-led brands discovered very different challenges when they tried to build their reputations on footwear. Lakai footwear, fully flared and fully tested. Lakai footwear was started in the late 1990s by Mike Carroll and Rick Howard, with Tim Gavin involved in the early planning and distribution support from DVS and Podium. As part of the Crail Tap family alongside Girl and Chocolate, Lakai carried credibility right away. Skaters trusted it because the same people shaping their boards and videos were now designing their shoes. Independence and authenticity weren't marketing points. They were baked into the structure. The turning point came in 2007 with the release of the fully flared video. Directed by Ty Evans, the video became a landmark in skate media. Its inventive filming, explosive intro, and standout parts won awards and drove sales. But success came with a cost. Many of the skaters who shined in fully flared were quickly recruited by larger brands offering bigger contracts. This rider exodus became known as the Lakai intro curse, where breakout parts often marked the beginning of departures. Lakai stayed alive by rebuilding. Reissues like the Telfer reconnected with longtime fans, while new talent brought fresh energy. In the late 2010s, even Tony Hawk joined briefly for a shoe project, giving Lakai both visibility and a symbolic link to skateboarding history. But it raised a bigger question. When your best publicity is driving riders to bigger offers, can your culture survive? That tension wasn't new. It echoed a larger struggle skaters had already been working through when they built their own companies in the first place. Girl Skateboards, skaters building futures. Girl Skateboards was founded in 1993 by Mike Carroll, Rick Howard, Megan Baltimore, and Spike Jones, with one clear mission: to give pro skaters lasting futures and real ownership. At the time, many riders were leaving Rocco's World Industries umbrella, searching for something different. Girls Model offered pros like Guy Mariano and Rudy Johnson actual stakes in the company, not just salaries, marking a direct break from the short-term, often exploitative system dominating skateboarding. The company quickly defined itself through video. Goldfish in 1993 and Mouse later in 1996 set a new standard, layering cinematic skits into the skating. Spike Jonze' filmmaking background pushed this distinctive style into the mainstream. Later, Yay Right in 2003 and Pretty Sweet in 2012 cemented Girl's position, with the latter becoming the best-selling skate video of its time. Staying independent wasn't easy. Rocco attempted to blacklist Girl from distributors early on, but the brand found support through Thrasher, which helped it establish credibility. Backed by the Crailtap ecosystem that tied Girl to Chocolate and Lakai, the company built a cooperative network that supported its riders and preserved skater control. It leaves an important question for anyone watching. Is a collective like Crailtap the strongest defense against cultural erosion? Or does money still outweigh ownership in the long run? Because not all brands built with skater ambition came from California. Some began overseas, carrying their own culture with them. Flip Skateboards, the global player. Flip Skateboards began in the UK as Deathbox in 1987, founded by Jeremy Fox, Graham Mickney, and Duncan Holton. Early on, the company nearly collapsed when a warehouse flood destroyed much of its stock, a setback that forced it to restart almost from scratch. By 1994, Fox and Ian Deacon relocated the company to California and rebranded it as Flip Skateboards. The move wasn't just logistical. It was a way of exporting Europe's raw style directly into the American scene, which had been dominated by homegrown crews. With Jeff Rowley's aggressive approach, Tom Penny's effortless flow, and later Arto Sari's power, Flip quickly became known for skating that felt unpredictable and distinct. The cultural high came in the 2000s with the Sorry trilogy. Sorry in 2002, Really Sorry in 2003, and Extremely Sorry in 2009. Narrated by Johnny Rotten, these videos set new standards for production and showcased Flip's global roster. But tragedy struck with the death of Shane Cross in 2007, while Penny's long absences and the departures of riders like Jeff Rowley and Mark Appleyard tested the team's stability. Even through loss, Flip adapted. The brand pushed product innovation with designs like new wave ribbed boards and P2 constructions for improved pop, showing technology mattered alongside video influence. Today, Flip still carries international weight, even after decades of challenges. Do you think Flip's lasting impact came more from its groundbreaking videos or its ability to hold the team together? Because at the same time, another brand was proving that the strength of a crew could be bigger than any corporate polish. Baker Skateboards, the anti-corporate family. Andrew Reynolds left Birdhouse in 1999 to start Baker Skateboards, frustrated by the corporate structure he had come from. With support from Blitz Distribution, backed by Per Waylander and Tony Hawk, Reynolds launched a brand that put his crew before polish. The philosophy was simple: skaters first, business second. Jay Strickland designed the early elephant-in-a-box logo, a small but lasting emblem of Baker's raw DIY identity. The look and feel made just as clear a statement as the skating. Instead of clean ads or glossy branding, Baker leaned into a gritty, chaotic party image. Outsiders often criticized it, but the unfiltered presentation gave the brand a magnetic identity. Videos became the true engine. Baker 2G in 2000 introduced the team as more of a family than a roster. Baker 3 in 2005 cemented that mythology. Baker Has a Death Wish in 2008 expanded the circle, while Baker 4 in 2012 doubled as a generational handoff. In 2007, the creation of Baker Boys Distribution marked a business turning point, allowing Reynolds and his crew to control their products and support allied brands like Death Wish. Long after its chaotic beginnings, Baker still feels like a family bound by loyalty, not contracts. Which Baker video, or even a single part, best captures that crew over corporation spirit? Tell us in the comments. Because when you look back at all of these stories together, a bigger pattern emerges. Each of these 8 brands began as a skater's vision that grew into a business. Their creativity built cultural value, and that value eventually drew in outside capital. For some, like Baker and Girl, ownership remained in skater hands, allowing them to grow while keeping identity intact. For others, like World Industries and DC, repeated corporate ownership diluted the very culture that made them matter. In the end, success carried different meanings. Some founders won with cash exits, while others measured victory in the cultural influence that outlasted buyouts. Which brand stood out the most to you? Was its success about money or authenticity? Comment below and engage with Let Me Explain's growing community. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you. Keep riding rippers.